Hollywood Bowl, sponsored by the Football app, the #1 football community in the world. Soccer Saturday at the Euros. What a day of football ahead. I've got to get this right. So, Croesus I Wallis.
Oh, very good.
That's what Google told me.
Bore da.
Not bad at all. First up, it's a massive welcome return to Hollywood Balls, to the doyen of sports journos, as I call him. He's also a Geordie, so George, you're a bit knackered today. You're going to be outnumbered. Just for a change, no Spurs players. It's a huge welcome back to John Richardson. Rico, how are you?
I'm very good, and thanks very much for inviting me back. Lovely to be here.
John, it's a pleasure to meet you.
And you, George.
It's going to be a great journey, this one, because two guys who love their football, who know their football. I'm taking me out of that equation, by the way. John, first of all, I've got to ask you. It's been a while since we caught up, so we're in the middle of Euros. What's your thoughts on the tournament so far?
Well, I must admit it's been an exhausting season because obviously I've been covering football, no fans, and it gets to you. And to be honest, I was exhausted. I think I don't really want to watch any more football, but I've been turned on by it. I've enjoyed it. And the best thing, boys, is that the fans are back in certain areas. I mean, to see 61,000 fans in Budapest, no social distancing, it was like the old days. It's something that we've always taken for granted, haven't we? But it's back. And I can't wait now. Hopefully, we're going to have the green light, for the Premier League games to be in front of full houses again. I mean, without fans, the lifeblood of the game is just sucked away, isn't it? It's soulless. But the fans are back, and there've been some good games. So yeah, I've enjoyed it.
I think I remember the last time we chatted, John. We said you can have Celtic, Rangers, Newcastle, Sunderland, Spurs, Arsenal. It's just without fans, it's nothing, is it?
No. Well, I cover a game every Saturday. They're mostly Premier League games, and it's like going back to my young days of watching reserve team games with no atmosphere, and you can't take it seriously. And the Premier League's going to be one, FA Cup's going to be one, etc. But you think, oh, no, this isn't real. It's a season when I was glad for once that Newcastle didn't get to the FA Cup final. Things like that. Although, will that ever happen? We don't know.
I'd have taken it.
So yeah, it's been a strange season, but I think the Euros, I was critical of it at first. I thought we're going all over Europe. There's a pandemic on. What's going on? But it's worked well, and
it's worked brilliant.
I think people have got into it.
Yeah, and what I will say though, that the Hungarian-based games have been great because of the fans. 61,000, John, has been great. It's just a shame we can't see the similar volume in other European venues, right? For example, today, the Welsh fans can't travel to the Netherlands, right?
Yeah. Crazy. It's been a little bit unfair, actually, hasn't it? There has been home advantage for some countries, England especially. But I agree, George. I mean, I spoke to Ian Russ this week, who will be in Amsterdam as a guest of UEFA. He meets with the high ploy and extra. He's looking forward to it, but he said, well, it won't be the same because hardly any of my compatriots will be there. So it's a bit unusual, but that's what we're playing on at the moment. We just have to get on with it.
For all of our fans joining us, we're getting Philippines. Everyone's flying in from Nigeria, Cyprus, Turkey, USA as well. Great to have you on board. Just so that the fans can understand, John, for you, I mean, you've got the dream job as far as I'm concerned. You get to go to press conferences. You get to write stories about what's going on in the beautiful world of football. But tell us how your career started, because it's a fascinating story.
Well, my career started in Chester with a weekly paper. Then I went to Brighton and then Birmingham. Anybody would have me. And then I ended up at Newcastle, as you know, Pete, on the Newcastle Journal, the morning paper there. I spent 6 years there, and my career, I've been very fortunate, because people say, oh, you've bumped into people who've become famous, and others have been just as good a journalist, but they don't have the same contacts. It is luck of the draw. And as you know, a chance meeting at Newcastle's training ground with a certain chap that went on to play for George's team, Mr. Paul Gascoigne, was there. And I'd heard from Colin Suggett, the U-team manager, that Gazza was this kid called Gazza, was doing well. Would you like to interview him? So, yeah, because they were on the way to the final of the Youth Cup in that year, as you know. So I turn up at Benwell and the old training ground, and there he is, this chubby little lad. I said, you Paul Gascoigne? Yeah. John Richardson here. I'd like to interview. How much are you going to pay me, mate? Cheeky little so-and-so. Never paid for an interview in my life. Suddenly, his face beams. Oh, it's all right, man. It's all right, man. Me mum gets the journal. You'll be all right. And so, that was a bit Welsh, that one. So that was it. So that relationship with Gazza started there. And as you know, it took me to World Cups, because I was his ghostwriter when I moved to the Sun newspaper. That's why I've got grey hair. Spent years with Mr. Gascoigne.
What a special player Paul Gascoigne was, in my opinion. And we've touched on this before, Pete, right?
Yeah.
If he didn't get that injury in the final against Nottingham Forest, I believe he would have gone on to be the best player in the world. He was that good.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that, George. Yeah.
I would say, people say that, and I feel sorry for him, because for me, he still is the best player that I've seen in the world. And I'm talking about going live. So I'm gonna touch on that in a bit. But I've got to ask you, we're going to touch on the books that you've done, John, because there's one that's literally due to come out, a couple that you've done as well, which I want people to know about. But I've got to ask you, though, because it's Gazza, what's your favourite Gazza story?
Probably my own, actually.
Yeah.
When he was playing at Rangers, I had to go up there. I used to stay at a lovely place just by the banks of Loch Lomond. But this day, I thought, no, I'm going to go up by plane and come back by plane. So I thought. And so I turn up at Ibrox to find out that he's at a sponsorship gig with Ali McCoist and Derek McInnes. Now, I knew Ali McCoist from Sunderland days, so I thought, right, I'll turn up there. So I get there, they're still in the tracksuits and everything. They say, right, he says, we're going to have a few beers. Yeah, I'm all right with that. I thought, no problem here. I'm on the last plane back, booked in the last plane from Glasgow Airport to Manchester. So cutting a long story short, we went to quite a few establishments. McCoist is driving. Must have special laws up there. So we're going to all these pubs are still in. It's getting now to 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I'm starting to panic. I haven't interviewed Gazza. I've got my dictaphone or the tape recorder as it was then. And, come on, Gazza, man. Oh, no, another man. Oh, no, I'm having another one. So eventually, it was Ali McCoy said, come on, Rico's come all this way. You could, right, all right. And you remember, it was just a few days after Eric Cantona had leapt into the crowd at Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And Kung Fu, that Matthew Simmons, the Palace fan. So I said, look, Gazza, you know about the incident. Well, what do you think about it? Oh, he says, more players should do that. We should give him a right good kicking. We're fed up of all. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ. Right, okay. Right. Anyway, so absolute gold, and I'm thinking, right, okay, if you want to say that. Oh, yeah, he said, we get this stick. Why can't we boot them? And, right, okay. Of course, the drink's talking, isn't it? So by this time, we have another one. I get to Glasgow Airport. I'm absolutely off my tree. I've had about 10 pints. And when you've had a few, you try not to look drunk. So I sat down waiting for could just about see, when my plane was due to leave, and just getting up. And then I fell over this coffee table, go sprawling.
Jesus.
Next thing, security come over. So what's? I think you'll find I'm on this plane going. I've got to go because my car's parked at Manchester Airport. So that was it. I was frog marched into the nearest hotel and said, "You're not flying anywhere. You fly in the morning." So fair enough. Sobered up. The next day, I listened to this tape. I think, God, can't use this. You know, it was so I just couldn't use it. So I eventually got him again through the club to do another. He said, "I never said any of that." I said, "You want to listen to
Brilliant.
So,
Amazing.
yeah. There was a few others, but that was a decent one.
But I bet that first tape must have been fun. I'd love to hear that.
I should have kept it, shouldn't I?
He should have kept it. John, can you imagine all of the people that Gaz has touched in his life? I mean, I told you a story, if you remember, and you said you were going to put it in the book. George, when I was a young boy, there's a shopping place near mine called the Metro Centre. And I know John knows this and loves it. And my mum was outside Marks and Spencer's. And she bumped into Paul Gascoigne, and she went up and said, "Are you Paul Gascoigne? He must have been 18 or whatever it was." And he said, "Yeah, I am." She said, "Oh, you're my son's favourite player. Can I have your autograph?" And he turned around to my mum and said, "Only if I can have your phone number." And the last interview, John told me if he'd known that, he would have put it in the book. Listen, what a touch as well. I mean, there's Gaza, but there's also a very sort of serious side to your writing as well, which must have been, and I'm fascinated by this because such a great player. And when Wales are playing later today, I'll be thinking of him. Gary Speed, Unspoken.
Yeah.
That must have been so tough for you and Louise to write together.
It was. I mean, Louise Speed, obviously, his wife, and I knew them both very well. And I wanted to do a book. It was a few years had gone, and I thought, there's not been any real book about Gary Speed. So I thought what I'd do, I'll speak to different people about him. And obviously Louise had to be in it. Otherwise it wouldn't be worthless. So eventually persuaded to do it. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, really, because I went there 3 or 4 times and we just both end up in tears, you know. It's hard to go now. You know, it was very hard. You know, because it came out the blue, as you know, and it was horrible. So eventually, and it was very poignant what she said. And in fact, I'm still in touch, and I can tell you that she's in another relationship now, and they could be getting married later in the year. So fantastic, you know.
And great boys as well, by the way.
Yeah,
great boys.
The lads are in America. So she's moved on, but what she always tells me is that every morning she wakes up, she still has this image of Gary hanging there because she cut him down, you know, which it's just tragic. Anyway, I did the book and there were some fascinating people. Neville Southall was very good on it. He talked about suicide, etc., etc. Some of them weren't that complimentary. I mean, Kevin Ratcliffe said it was a selfish act and he should be ashamed of himself, you know, and that, you know, you do have to balance it. But it took a lot out of me because obviously every interview, and I thank the people that, you know, all the people that agreed to speak, it exhausted you because it was emotional. Every conversation obviously was very emotional, but and so I was very proud when the book came out, and you know, and I was proud of Louise that she and she sorry, George, just finishing off. It helped her in the end. Yeah,
God bless you, John. That's a great job, John. You know, because you played a very big role in her healing. You know,
well, to an extent, yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, we all remember that day, and you know. It felt like £1 million in phone calls with all my football friends, and you know, we were just it was very, very difficult, and it's a brave person to judge, you know, John. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Gary's a wonderful player, wonderful man. Yeah.
All I can say is best midfielder I've ever seen in a black and white shirt. Moving on, you've got you've got a book. I'm thinking September, October coming out. This one I literally can't wait for, because it's Sir Alex. It's Tales of Alex Ferguson under the hairdryer. Now, George, I've got to let you into a secret here. I can tell you because John's going to tell all the fans, but John's had the hairdryer, by the way, haven't you?
Oh, many times, yeah. I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. I admire him. I like him. We got on much better in the last later years. He's not Mellow. A big fan. He's mellow. He's not a big fan of younger reporters, So as you get older, he accepts you more. But my first hairdryer was surrounding Ryan Giggs. You remember Ryan Giggs bounced onto the scene, and Fergie protected him. Didn't want anybody to interview him. But at the time, I covered Wales. And of course, Ryan Giggs had started to break into the Welsh side, and it became a bit of a joke with the manager, Terry Yoreth. Can we speak to Ryan Giggs then? No, I can't do that. Anyway, I don't know if you remember, it was tragic again. Terry lost his 15-year-old lad who dropped dead in the garden with a heart complaint. But he still took the game, whatever game it was. Anyway, just said, look, with everything that's happened, Terry, let's put things in perspective. Can we not just have a few words with, a bit naughty really, can we just have a few words with Ryan Giggs? He said, yeah, okay. So about 4 of us from the Nationals interviewed Ryan Giggs. So this appeared on the Thursday. Now, I did the Friday press conferences for Manchester United. None of the others did. So, and it used to be aptly named the Grill Room at Old Trafford.
Brilliant. Grill Room.
So I turn up on the Friday. I didn't even get into the Grill Room. You effing this, you effing this. I mean, to be fair, the interview was, it wasn't outrageous. It was just an ordinary interview. Yeah, did this, you did that, you can F off, you fucking you're banned. That was the first of many bans, so the hairdryer was turned on full blast.
Was it protective, John, of his players, do you think? Would you think that
yes.
That was what it was? Nothing to do with he was annoyed it was affecting Man United, but he was protecting his players.
He's protecting his players, but he was and was right until the end a control freak,
right?
Because he would tell us, he said it took him 10 years, he says, to control Manchester United, to get everything under his control. I'll tell you another little Fergie story if you got time for this.
Of course, yeah, always.
This was in the early days. There was a bloke from the Express called John Bean. He was like a character. He was like a character from a Dickensian era, sort of long hair, and spoke like this, hello matey, and all this business. Anyway, unluckily for John, Fergie used to get the Daily Express at home, so he'd see everything that John had written where he wouldn't see the others. And anyway, there was something that upset him. So, and in these days, we'd moved from the Grill Room to a little room inside Old Trafford, and had a little coffee table in front, and we'd sit round Fergie, So Beano comes in, and Fergie, you're a has-been, off, you fucking, you're banned. So John says, oh, am I, matey? Okay. Just before I go, could I possibly do a shoe shine shuffle? So he gets on this table and does a shoe shine shuffle, and Fergie's trying not to laugh. He's doing this shoe shine shuffle. So, right. I'll go now, Alex. Let me know when I'm back.
I mean, funnily enough, listen, I know Lee Sharp came out to Dubai, and we played golf with him, and he told us a great story. He literally said that when him and Ryan Giggs signed their contracts, they went out and celebrated and bought a new flat, a really nice plush apartment in Manchester, and they were having a house party that night to celebrate. So they had this. Yeah, is it? Yeah. So they had this. Sharpie told me firsthand, housewarming, George. Everyone from Manchester was coming, all the models, and the third person at the door was Fergie, and he was running up and down the stairs, kicking people up the backside and kicking them out the house, and he threw Giggsy and Sharpie out of his own house. That's why I love Fergie. Absolutely brilliant. It's just
there's
fantastic.
only one Sir Alex Ferguson.
And I just watched the program, and it's it's incredible. It's incredible.
Very moving, isn't it?
Very moving. Very moving. There's been quite a few of those recently. Jack Charlton, Sir Alex.
That was fantastic. The Jack Charlton.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Okay,
I'll tell you one more Fergie story. You know the singer Catherine Jenkins. She's lovely, isn't she?
Yes, she is. Yes,
Welsh girl. Anyway, Fergie did brilliant. It was Bobby Robson's memorial at Durham Cathedral, and I went there, and Fergie gave this fantastic address. Didn't have a note. It was absolutely tremendous. So on the front, and Catherine Jenkins is there singing. She was superb in this lovely green dress, etc., etc. Anyway, so we get to the press conference the Friday before it starts. Alex, I said, I just want to say you did brilliantly. Did absolutely brilliantly with your speech, at Durham Cathedral. Aye, but did you see Catherine Jenkins? Oh, that dress! Oh, goes on for the next 5 minutes about how lovely Catherine Jenkins is, So.
Absolutely brilliant. I think we're all agreed that Catherine Jenkins is pretty amazing. Listen, we've got to get on to today's games.
Do we?
Yeah, we do. It's a massive game for Wales and Denmark. Wales, and I've been dying to say this all tournament, they could bring home the bacon. There you go. I've got it out. I've got it out of my system. It's out of my system. I've been desperate to say it. But
it's leaked out.
It has. Listen, I've got a video. We've got a new thing, John, on our show now. We've got this amazing Geordie guy who I went to school with many years ago. George, how good was he last night? Dave,
he was unbelievable. Fantastic.
This guy brings the stats up if you want to use him as a freelance. So I've asked him for a couple of videos and his thoughts on today's games, and he's come up with this today.
Hello there, it's Statto Dave Huggan here, all the way from Sydney, Australia for Hollywood Balls. Well, Euro 2020 continues today with two great games. Now, first of all, Wales are playing everyone's second favourite team, Denmark. Everybody wants Denmark to win, poor Wales, but actually, I reckon Wales are going to win this one 1-0. Watch out for Gareth Bale getting a special goal there. And then Italy versus Austria. Now, that's a repeat of a game from 1990 when a certain Salvatore Schillaci got on the score sheet and made a name for himself. But I think Austria have got much more chance of scoring in the big market on a Saturday night than they have against that Italian defence. And I'm going to go for 2-0 to Italy. So they'll be celebrating tonight. All right, well, enjoy. And back to Pete.
There he is. He's our all the way from Australia. Statto Dave Huggan. Brilliant. What a great lad. But it is a huge game. So I'm going to... we do have... your predictions to do in a little while, but how does that pan out? How will they approach that game, John, tonight?
Well, normally speaking, it's a special game, isn't it? Because Denmark are riding on a wave of emotion. Take that away, and I think Wales would have had a better chance. But I also know Welsh fans, as you mentioned earlier, Pete. It's going to be very tough. Wales, though, have got the players to win this game, as we know. I mean, crikey, Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey, Dan James, that's three players who would frighten any country.
He's had a good tournament, James, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I'm a big Dan James fan. I think Manchester United is a club too big for him. I'd love Newcastle to take him. Take it even better if they could take him on loan. I think his next club, he's going to become, huge. It might not happen for him at Manchester United. Gareth Bale is not the Gareth Bale of 5 years ago. We know that.
No.
Well, George knows that. Not that he's had much chance to play, of course. But I still think there's a big game, in him. And this is the time to deliver. And Aaron Ramsey is just showing what a class player he is. Juventus probably haven't seen the best of him.
There's a player I'd like at Newcastle.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think a few clubs would be in for him because it doesn't look like he's going to stay at Juventus. So yeah, I mean, it's there for Wales to do, but I think they've got to go on the attack. You know, offensively they're better than defensively. Although to be fair, they've got a good defensive record, and if Wales go for it, they've got a chance.
Listen, George, I've got some before you put you've been champion Wales all the way through, but I've got to tell you that none of the previous 10 meetings between Wales and Denmark have finished level. There's always been a winner, but Denmark have won the last 3. Can that change later?
I think it can, and I think Wales will adopt a siege mentality. We don't have any fans. We're playing Denmark. The whole world wants Denmark to win because of what happened with the unfortunate incident with Christian Eriksen. I've always maintained exactly what John said, and we touched on other shows, Pete, that James, I think, will be the difference. He's a nightmare to mark when he's running with the ball in front of him, right? I also agree with our guest that I think Wales will pip it 1-0.
I tend to agree. Listen, we had last night, George. We had a guest on, and we put the video on, and I'm going to play it again because I know there's a lot of Wales fans who they can't travel, but it was such a pivotal video from a man who was so passionate about his side. So with all our wishes today, because I want Wales to win, because they've all booked, I'm going to tell you now, they've all booked for the next game in advance to go back to Baku if they win the game today. John, this guy is another John. He's the Welsh chairman. Yeah, great guy. Have a listen to this.
Hello, Hollywood Balls fans. My name's John Dyke, Dubai Welsh supporters and a Cardiff City fan. Obviously, we've been loving our Euro adventures again this tournament. I think the only down has been that the Red Wall haven't been able to travel. Welsh fans are not even allowed into Holland for the game tomorrow against Denmark, which I think is disgusting. I was lucky enough to go over to Baku for the first round games. It was brilliant. I think the team have played superbly. We look really hard to beat. I fancy us to go further. I don't see why we can't beat Denmark tomorrow. I think it'll be a tight game. I'd say 2-1. I fancy Kiefer Moore, Ballon d'Or, to pop up with a goal. And I'm sure Gareth Bale will want to get on the score sheet.
Brilliant. I just literally want Wales to win for John and all the UAE. And I know, because they've got about 100 people going to a certain bar in Dubai tonight to watch it, 100 Wales fans. Absolutely fantastic. Moving on, Italy, Austria. Well, that means that I'm looking at it. The Azzurri, George, who you're loving, by the way. That's why you probably got your blue top on. They've won all of their 4 meetings in major tournaments against Austria. 1934, 1978, 1990, and 98. Are they going to win tonight?
Absolutely. Team of the tournament. It's a privilege to watch them. It's just pure enjoyment. They're on fire. They play with great rhythm, great pace. They move the ball quickly. It's almost like total football that the Dutch had in 1974. It's with pace. Wonderful. I think they trounce Austria 3-0.
Oh wow! We'll come to that because we've got them in the predictions. John, what's your take on Italy so far?
I've been surprised, to be honest. Talking to Ian Rush before the competition started, he said they were his favourites. I thought, oh, well, right, yeah, Italy are fine. You know, that defensively always sound. But I tell you what, I've been surprised and delighted. As George says, they've been the team of the tournament so far. Yeah. They're great to watch. They're scoring goals. Roberto Mancini I know very well from Manchester City days. Yep. He's a gentleman. Delighted for him. Dresses well, doesn't he?
Yeah. And he can still back. Did you see him bring it down the other day on the touchline?
Yeah. Top player. Called in at Leicester, didn't he, for a few months? No, I think Italy are the team of the tour. I don't know whether they're going to win it or not, but they're certainly giving themselves a good shout. And I think Italy versus Austria is the most certain victory for anybody in the competition so far. I think it's all the way.
John, the thing that one of the many things I was so impressed with Italy is their last game with Wales. They made 8 changes.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have thought it was 8 changes. They played with the same understanding, with the same rhythm, with the same speed, moving the ball quickly. Mancini has done an incredible job. I pray that he goes to Spurs as the manager, but that ain't going to happen.
Yeah, well said, George. Well said. Why isn't he on anybody's wanted list? I mean, because the opportunity now after these championships to get him, he'd be fantastic for Tottenham.
Yeah. So, given that I'm a very sad Spurs fan, I spent a lot of time researching Mancini, and by all accounts, he's committed to the cause of the national team until 2026. He wants to take it that far.
Money talks, George. Money talks.
I don't disagree. But you got Daniel. But on the other side of that, you got Daniel Levy, right?
Oh well, money does talk then.
Listen, George, we're gonna have a special Daniel Levy show just for you. You can get it all off your chest.
Oh, just remind me. I'll be wearing black that day.
It's been a nightmare. Listen, I've got so much more to get through with you two guys. I knew this was going to be a nightmare to host today. We've got Hollywood Baller of the Week, which is your hero of the week, John. So we're going to go with you first.
Well, you've just mentioned him. I'd go Mancini.
Okay.
30 games unbeaten. He's delightful to interview. He'll speak all different languages. He's always there for the media. The other one is Christian Eriksen, of course, who has has come out of hospital, popped in to see the Danish side, lifted their spirits. So those two.
Great stuff, George.
Yeah, John, we're of like mind. It's got to be an Italian player. I couldn't pick one because there are so many who play well. So I got to go with the boss because he's made the great team. I went with Mancini too. Can you believe it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
By the way, there's only one boss. He's up there.
Yeah.
I could do another show on that. There's not a gig, George, just so you know, of Bruce Springsteen that Rico hasn't been to see. You must have been all around the world to see him, John, right?
Pretty well, yeah. Well, it's about time he toured again, lazy so and so. Come on.
Have you actually seen them in New Jersey, in his home state, perform?
I've been to New Jersey and I've been to his neck of the woods, but not actually seen him. But I've seen him in Tampa. Florida. Have you, George?
Great performer. He's a great performer.
Oh, the best.
I mean, he's a legend in Europe, but in America, my God, what a legend! Yeah. He's more than a musician in America. If he wanted to go into politics, and sometimes I wish he would, he would change America. He's that popular. He's incredible.
Big friend of Obama, isn't he? Sorry?
He played St. James's Park 1984, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Born in the USA tour, yeah. He did.
Did he?
And I was only 10.
Wow.
In fact, Jack Charlton was the manager then. Yeah. And he said, who's this Bruce Springsteen coming? I said, what? Oh, you mean Bruce Springsteen? Good old Jack.
Listen, speaking of Newcastle, John, I want to touch on it. I know it's a Euro show, but while I've got you,
they're in Europe.
As a journalist, much to the and take your fan. We know that you love the tune as well, like I do. Take that out of the equation. Steve Bruce, can you tell me what? I mean, right? Okay, I'm just going to say it. It's not great football, is it?
No, it's not great football. And I mean, get on well with Steve, so I'm talking professionally. I'm probably harder on Newcastle than any other team when I'm reporting them because we get frustrated, don't we? As we all know. The WhatsApps go red. You remember well, you will do. Remember the Brentford game?
Yeah, slightly.
Yeah, and I remember somebody took a throw in adjacent to the Brentford penalty area, and the ball goes right back to the keeper. I almost kicked the television in. It was so negative, so negative. I mean, Newcastle, like Wales, are good offensively. We've got some decent players going forward, and Brucey hasn't utilised that. But having said that, they finished 12th. How they managed that, I just don't know. But let's not blame Steve Bruce. Let's blame the owner. I mean, everybody, has to operate with their hands tied behind the back. At least at Tottenham, you do spend on players, George. I mean, very rarely do we spend. If you look over the seasons, you find it's Newcastle usually in profit, aren't they, Pete? Every summer.
Yeah.
So, you got to spend money, and until we get new ownership, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I will say this though. I think Newcastle last year had some unfortunate injuries.
Yeah, true.
The back third of the season, they were a joy to watch going forward. Now, a club like Newcastle, I mean, the tradition, Malcolm McDonald, the era under Kevin Keegan. It's a bit like Spurs. It's about playing on the front foot, right? And if you don't have a manager that does that, it's a cultural poor fit, right? So Newcastle. That's why I love Newcastle, right? It's almost my second team, as people tell you, because generally, like when Shearer was there, it's always on the front foot, and it's a joy to watch. The fans demand that. The Geordie fans, they're the best fans in the world, I think, the Geordie fans, because if they see their team playing attacking football, great football, and even if they don't win, they're okay with it, right? Spurs fans, we're fickle. If we don't win, we always moan. They deserve attacking football. I will say this also. Ashley is trying to sell the club. He was stopped by the Premier League. I think the Premier League have been embarrassed, or the FA. If it goes through, I think it could be a fantastic era for Newcastle, and I sincerely hope it happens.
Great stuff. Listen, we're going to move into our predictions. We've got to do it. There's only 2 games today, George, so you and I won't be too embarrassed. We haven't got Super Kevin Campbell here, John, who is the champion of predicting, by the way. And my lord, does he take it so seriously? WhatsApping me, telling me, have you done the scores? Who won? So it's just the 3 of us today, and there's only 2 games. So I'm going to start with our guest, John. Give us a score for Wales-Denmark.
I think George and I are going to have the same scores here, because I remember what he said about it. I'm going to go Wales 2-1.
Okay. Our George?
I've got Wales 2, Austria 1.
Okay. It's a love-in. I've got Wales to win 1-0. There you go. Italy-Austria.
I'm going to nick George's score here. 3-0 Italy.
Yeah. 3-0 all day long. 3-0.
It's going to be the quickest predictions of all time.
Well, listen. Italy have played 3 games so far. They've scored. They've scored 8, conceded 0. Right. They're unlucky. You could argue they're unlucky not to score more. 3-0 today against Austria.
You've got your BBC stats open next to you, haven't you? That's what you're looking at. I'm going an Italian 1-0. That's what I think. Listen, we've definitely got the last code to go, but Statto Dave has just given me this. He's just sent me this here. This is absolute. And again, remember, please, and I'm telling you the truth, it comes from here. He doesn't Google anything. He is literally a freak of nature. Listen to this.
Now, since I'm now the resident Statto, apparently, I'd like to give you a stat that you can't really Google that easily. It's about unusual hat-tricks. I like talking about unusual hat-tricks. So, first of all, Sevilla won the Europa League 3 years in a row. The first was a penalty shootout, and the third was a 3-1 win against Liverpool. Real Madrid won the Champions League 3 years in a row, 2016, 2017, 2018. The first a penalty shootout, and the third a 3-1 win versus Liverpool. An amazing coincidence. Back to Pete.
I literally,
Give him,
you know,
give him that.
George, yeah, I told you, John, he needs a job. Listen, George, you talk about your wife having grief about you watching the football. I think Dave's wife might be the same. What a Statto. Rico, all that remains is for me to thank you so much for being our guest. It's been an absolute blast.
Hey, really enjoyed it, and lovely to meet George.
John, it's been my pleasure.
When do we think that the hairdryer is going to be out?
Hey, I'll get the hairdryer for this book. He probably won't be happy. It's coming out in September, October.
Okay. From all, as they say on the TV, from all good bookstores.
Yeah. And Amazon.
And Amazon, yeah. Absolutely brilliant. It's been a magnificent Soccer Saturday. All I've got is, you've got your last code there at ZP. Please, guys, subscribe to the channel. Give me some likes. Share it amongst your friends. And we'll be back with another Euro show. Massive thanks to George, as always. And John, Rico Richardson, it's been brilliant.
Brilliant. And really enjoyed it.